We're live.
Did I say that? I won't say that. Okay.
Good evening. Tonight is Monday, December 12th, 2022. Is the executive committee meeting for the Village of Gulf Manor. Mr. Pridnoff, can I have a call to order, please? Roll call.
Mr. Fisher, I see is absent. Mr. Knipp is absent. Mr. Marks.
Here.
Mr. Simile.
Here.
Mr. Van Harn.
Here. I have not heard from either one. I did talk to Mr. Fisher earlier today, but we never talked about the meeting tonight, so I expect he'll be here. Danny, I have not heard from, so I texted him.
So, Mr. Reinhardt, Mr. Donlin will be here around 6:20 to assist with your with a proposed executive session this evening
Okay.
in this committee.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
He texted me a little while ago. He was packing the cooler. Here's important things.
Indeed.
Okay, for the agenda, I trust you've all had a chance to review it. I do have one thing I just want to say. I've talked to all of you this week just to kind of get an idea about what we're going to try to plant the seeds to accomplish next year. So I have a list. It's in no order in terms of importance, which I think we will do. We will go through that. So I'm going to read this or go over this tonight. This will be we'll start stacking it up for the agenda in January.
Okay.
To begin.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. No one's registered to speak tonight, is that correct? Okay, I was not at the last meeting, but I did review the minutes. Anybody else have any changes or corrections to the minutes?
I do not. I took a look and I didn't see anything that needed to be corrected.
Did we really wrap that meeting up by 6:15?
Oh, I don't know.
6:51.
Oh, it's a typo?
It-
Oh, it's
Maybe I,
6:51.
okay.
Oh, you read it 15.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, sorry. Motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
I think we already had a motion on the table by
Yeah.
Mr. Marks and
Oh,
second by Mr.
All in
Simile.
favor, say aye.
Aye. Okay, new business.
David's here. Welcome, Mr. Fisher.
They moved me away from you.
Wow.
They moved me away from you.
Wow, we told you.
Something.
Yeah, what happened?
Okay, I wanted to review, I know I've talked to all of you.
You're right.
this week.
It's just, sorry.
That's okay. I did want to just note that the pending items will stay on the agenda, which is landlord tenant legislation. We're still waiting for things for that, property
Yes.
maintenance issues. So that's still staying on the agenda. But we have some new efforts to do this year or next year, so
Okay.
that's what we're trying to get set up for. Lastly, there's a couple things, I'm gonna go through the list, but there's no doubt that maybe even half of these can be covered using subcommittees, like we did with the pods and all that stuff. I think, Lou did a lot of work on that one, kind of behind the scenes, and then it finally came to life. And I think some of these are gonna fit that same thing, so we may decide in January, hey, let's create a subcommittee, or even now, if anybody has a passion about one of the things that come up, they want to lead it, just let me know.
Okay.
First thing then is, I will make this the first priority at the next meeting. Because it's Ron's review process for his employment. Mr. Hurth, I want to apologize to you that it's taken so long. There's been a lot of things that I won't get into it, but we'll try to get that addressed. And part of the next meeting will be discussing how we can adjust the process to make it work better for everybody. So that will be part of that discussion later, okay? So I think.
So is that gonna be on the agenda for January?
Yes, that's gonna be top to do, because we gotta get it done. It's so overdue, and that'll be the first thing on the agenda for January, so.
Well, you won't be able to do the review in the meeting, right? Or will you?
Yeah, we will.
We'll do the review in the meeting, so that'll take a whole meeting probably.
Could be.
Okay.
Yeah, could be. I think I'll give you more detail on that.
So what you had, and I don't know if this is helpful, what you and I had talked about was you had asked if I could present my self-review to the committee in an executive session, and I'm okay with doing that.
Okay,
Yes,
So,
perfect.
and we decided for different reasons, we're gonna do it in January. That's what we'll do. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to say that without being executive, so that's why I was.
It's out there now.
Okay.
Well, you're not discussing the review, so.
Right, so, okay, so that will be on the agenda, so obviously you'll make sure that's top, we'll talk about that. The next thing that's been brought up, of course, is the strategic plan. We talked about at the last meeting with council that if we got some things going, there's some good and bad, but it's not, we don't really have a handle on it, the way we're communicating it.
Mhm.
So we may take that as a group and just kind of try to put some priority to it, organization to it, understanding to it, so we communicated something, so that we can get council, then basically give it to council, and we can tweak it from there.
So would we receive input from administration on the things that are on there that are in process right now?
Yeah,
And then things that are pending, so that we know, we don't need to prioritize those or discuss them. They're already in the hat, or they're coming up, and it doesn't need anything.
that's a good example of what, I think we almost need to get it out of his head, maybe onto a piece of paper, or,
So today
So
I
we can
sent
have-
you the everybody should have gotten it in their email, the Harrison Township samples. So they did two pieces. There was a process document that they used to write the report, and then there was the actual report at the end. In talking with Mr. Dale, whatever we do is probably some kind of a combination of the both, just because of the size of the community and where we are with some of the projects. What I think would be helpful, and I don't know how you want to do this, but there are pieces of the strategic plan that I think all of the council members are interested in hearing and talking about, but I think there are things that community engagement should drive along with possibly this committee and maybe even finance. Offhand, nothing on finance really strikes me, but I think you and Ms. Snyder working together, we can work that out, so.
Yeah, and what I was thinking, it was a suggestion I wrote for myself, was maybe we try to have a quarterly report on it, where once we have kind of it handled quarterly, we'll make sure that there's some revisit of it.
Yeah.
Where are we at, what are we doing, and that would involve everybody getting it. I was gonna suggest that.
And I think that would be frequent
So,
enough.
Yeah, I think so, because a lot of stuff
Those are a lot
moves
of
so
big
slow.
items,
Right. And the fact that there's 6 sections we talked about last week, we still gotta get that kind of figured out. So I don't have the answers, but I think the answer is let's do something to get it going, so. Again, this was on the agenda, but I'm gonna bring it up again. The landlord rental, we'll keep pushing on that, to whatever we can do to keep that moving
Aren't
forward.
we pending some state of Ohio
Yeah, it's the
Regulations or
State House has
laws?
legislation keeping municipalities from controlling rental properties, and they're just not moving forward with it. So it's a lame duck
Yeah.
session right now, so nothing will happen until next year.
Yeah, I just think we gotta keep it, like, as we have.
We'll keep it
just
on the
in the
list.
forefront, so that it's gonna be there, so.
Okay.
We're gonna work with the police department, to review and understand the activities, maybe strategies, and continue to improve communication. That'll definitely be on the agenda. We've got some things, I met with the chief last week and got a lot of understanding about some things and kind of the community needs and things, and we're gonna work on that. That's gonna be part of our goal. And whatever we come up with, we'll work together with chief. And then, of course, if there's anything needed, obviously, at some point it'll be submitted to council, but if there's anything that needs approval, well, it's funding, well, I don't know. We don't know what it's gonna be yet. But it's gonna be an effort, to resolve some things that are flying out there, so. LED lighting, I know that came up. I don't know if that would go through us. but I
So-
wanted to bring that up.
So the Duke Energy is aware of our request. They took so there was in 2021, they did a survey for us with a cost. So it's an old document that needs to be updated. They're reviewing that now, and we are number 5 in line for them to come back and reissue that with appropriate numbers. So it's not going to happen this year. I would imagine in January, February of next year, we'll have additional information from Duke Energy.
Okay,
So,
can we put that on for pending business or something?
Sure.
Just for something to
Yeah, maybe, yeah,
remind us.
yeah. And so, just on that, looked a little bit at the Duke site, and certainly they keep this very sort of cryptic, but they have most of the southeast done. I mean, the Carolinas are working in Florida. Oh yeah, we're Ohio's usually kind of on the tail end as they move north.
Okay.
That's what it seems. So they've already done, I think, the Carolinas. They're doing Florida. They have a one kind of an LED that they put out there. So the Kelvin rating of the lighting is probably going to be around 3,000. They'll probably get that in the spec, but that seems to be what they're mentioning on their site. The only options they seem to have offered is there was some community in Florida, and I have no idea what that means. I didn't look it up to see what it was, but there were some people were complaining that they could read books in their backyard. So I think that what happened was is you might have these residents that are right on the street. So in one community, they're putting out like 3 versions of the span of the light. So they create patterns with the lens.
Sure.
That's what they do. So I don't know that they would offer that here. I'm just saying that's the one option it looked like they offered. I would think they'd want to make the lights as standard as possible so that when there's one replaced, they don't have to try to figure out which one it is. But that's the one thing. When we get the proposal, we'll know. I'm just saying that's what I saw on the website. So
Well, that makes sense, because it seems to me that there is some standard of lumens per whatever.
there is a
And
standard.
so it might be, okay, we need one to reach to.
So the
Let's go
offer,
this way,
the
this way.
proposal that they will give us is done by an engineer who has looked where the existing poles are, and they take into account the density of the neighborhood, the lumens that are needed, and whatever scientific stuff that they need to make that decision. So when they give us this is what it's going to cost, this is what they're recommending we use, I'm sure we'll have the ability to review that, but there is no choice in color of light.
No.
They have one particular unit that they use or units that they will suggest for our neighborhood, and we need to see what the proposal is to figure out where we go forward.
Yeah, well, see, they should provide, if the engineer's doing it, they'll usually provide a map, the layout of the lighting.
Yeah, we have that already.
And you have that already, so you'll see that, you'll know. But yeah, they'll generally determine the pattern of the beam once they know the spread of the poles. So, yeah, I mean, they've done this thousands of times, so we're not unique or anything.
Probably millions.
Huh? And yeah, they do it. I mean, all over the southeast. So anyway, that should just be a smooth thing.
Yeah.
We just need to understand what they're proposing, right?
I agree. The next thing we talked about was kind of the grants effort for the village, the Gulf Manor.
Mhm.
Basically coming up with some semblance of how do we want to approach it, what's the best way for our village to do it. It could involve, sharing a grant writer or hooking up with a company that does it, or there's a few options. I think we should try to nail one down and then make recommendations. And of course, there may be a cost to that involved, so we have to review it or recommend it over to finance or something.
Sure.
But the strategy is what we're going to do, and then council kind of as a whole.
Yeah.
Kind of.
So Mr. Pritnoff is actively working on that.
Mhm.
We've
Yep.
made contact with Lexipol and a service that they have available. In fact, I think the chief and Mr. Pritnoff, did you have that meeting? Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to meet hopefully next week. Is that tentatively?
So we're gonna look at some of the specs and see if
I'm
it's
sorry,
something that we
this-
want to
this
contract to
week.
do. But I would see once if we make the decision that we're going to engage a vendor to assist us with that, we'll put together kind of like an advisory board for grants that would include the department heads and member of council and however else we want to deal with it. So we need to figure that out yet, but I
Yeah,
think we've made a start there.
yeah. When I was talking to, I think it was Mr. Fisher, it was things like too where there are surprise grants that come up through the county or through the state and aren't necessarily part of a routine. And if we have somebody that finds a way to stay in touch with those, that's just one piece of the whole.
That's what we're looking for with this
Yeah.
vendor,
Yeah,
is to be able to
exactly.
handle any kind of grant stuff that happens.
Perfect.
And then I had a suggestion that we do one more review again of the Star Fund, just to see if there's any more we can take advantage of that, based on, what do we need for regular cash flow or whatever. And again, I don't know all the answers to that.
So I would refer that to the finance committee. That's not an executive committee issue.
How we use the funds could be an executive thing.
Yeah, that would be part of it. And then I thought that because it's strategic for the village, I guess my thought was, I mean, what's the difference if we have a 500,000 in there or 1 million? If we can do that, I don't, I'm just throwing these numbers out. But what does that do for us? And then strategically, how do we suggest that the village kind of use that or direct that? And there's some things I know that are already decided for us, right? Sort of, with how that's used. But I don't feel like I have enough understanding of it. And I thought if we just do a cursory review of it, we may have some suggestions even for finance to think about.
There's Terry.
With
With the cooler.
That's the first time you smiled.
One of the best sounds there is.
Can hear the reels rolling.
That's completely fantastic. It's like a cartoon.
Your solicitor will.
There it is.
Yeah, I would suggest you let finance drive that.
Okay, well, I'd like
And
to
then we
ask,
can have a discussion with them.
yeah, I'd
Yeah.
like to ask them the question.
Committees ought to be able to work with each other and
Yeah.
discuss things.
Okay. And then the last one that I had brought up, would like to review our stipends for elected officials sometime next year. Again, how we look at that, how they've been, what we can do, if there is anything. Just want to do another cursory review.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. Stipends for,
You talk about the compensation.
Yeah, compensation,
oh,
because they're really stipends. They're not-
so that also is a finance issue. That needs to come up in the finance committee. So what you guys can do is you can refer things to the chair of finance and ask them to put that on the agenda. But this discussion about the finances of the village need to take place in finance. That's where that all starts. You can all participate, but that needs to be driven by that committee.
Well, it seems to me that if there's a reason that we would think this is a good thing for the village, that we come up with our own discussion on it, and what recommendation that would be, then we could pass it over to finance.
So I
Does this
think,
work? They would still be in charge of this.
so would you want the finance committee discussing things that are under the realm of the executive committee and their committee? So should you respect each other's authority in
Well-
terms of what your areas of responsibility? I'm just asking the question.
Well, it
I
really
mean, you guys
falls
can
into
do
the
whatever
same
you
thing
want.
of, to me, it's similar to doing your review. We're gonna do it. We're gonna come up with our suggestions. It's gonna affect finance. We don't know how much, but we'll make our recommendations on how to view it to finance, and then they will make the decision based on that. I think the executive committee, if we're gonna be involved with the strategic plan, we might, at some point, it says the plan is gonna say we gotta spend this money for the park. I don't know. I mean, I'm just making that up. Again, we'd have to go to finance and say, here's our recommendation, can we do it? Right? And then, yeah, we'd have to work with them to bring it to council. So,
I think you should have a discussion on what the boundaries are between committees with the head of the finance committee. I don't think we should be taking automatically that just because it's important that it comes under executive. There are finance decisions, and I think they should stay there. And then we can always participate in the meetings. We can always have a discussion with them, and eventually it'll go to council. So,
okay. I guess for me, I don't think of it as the finance, I think of it as the strategy. And there's a cost to that. And I'm staying out of the cost to it in terms of, say, if we want to do this for the village because it's good, what can we do?
Okay.
Maybe we got to deal with the grants committee to find the money or something, I don't know. That's just the way I
why
view
are
it.
we putting the remuneration for council members and the mayor on the agenda? Is there some discussion that we need to have about that? Because there's been some rough discussions of that, and Mr. Donlin brought up to us that there's actually some councils around the area that make less money than we do, Indian Hill, and so I just wonder why, because, anyway, I don't want to discuss that here, but
I don't see where that would fall under the executive.
Yeah.
The role of executive.
yeah, because it's not impacting. This is, these are community service positions, right? This council and mayor are community service positions. That's what they're fighting. We have administration to run the village. That's a paid position.
Okay, so I guess generally it's come up and I thought the way to put it to bed for the long term, we had some discussion around it. So whether that's done in here or whether it's done in finance,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that either way.
All right.
That's really why I'm doing it, is say, let's put it to bed.
Okay.
Let's have a review of it. Maybe we're fine, maybe, I don't know. I really don't know, so personally.
So just for the sake of clarity, for the minutes, I have for the Star Fund, saying there was possibility of recommendation to finance to explore further investment. Is that something that would require a motion to recommend?
That's
So,
all.
so
Yeah.
we don't have a motion to recommend that. Additionally, for review of compensation for elected officials, we would need a motion, a second, and then an all in favor.
As far as I
for such a
understand, we're not
recommendation?
talking about recommending anything, he's just saying what he wants to put on the agenda for next year.
Yeah.
That was for
Just
for
everything
finance.
that he's saying is that what he's going on the agenda, we're not putting anything through to nobody right now.
He was suggesting
He's
these are
just
some
suggesting
options for
different
the
things that we
agenda.
want to
Okay,
go through
that's,
next year.
okay, I'm sorry,
That's all he's
I'm,
saying.
all right, very
Yeah,
good.
so we're
Okay.
not actually doing anything. He's just
Okay.
suggesting
Just
that
setting
that's
up
maybe
what
a
he-
topic.
Exploring a
Put it on the
recommendation to
And then
finance.
finding out how to do it.
Okay,
By doing this stuff.
okay, all right,
Okay,
for the minutes, yeah, perfect, thank you.
and that was really my last
So-
thing.
Terry, as a point of process, if this committee wishes the finance committee to take a look at elected official compensation, they can make a request that finance does that.
Yes.
Correct. So that's what I'm suggesting that you do. So if you felt that that's something that needs to be done, I don't know if a formal request was ever made to the previous chair or not, but make a formal
I didn't hear the
request.
very first part of what you said.
No, if this committee feels that there should be a review of elected official compensation, this committee can request of the finance committee to make that review. And
Okay,
you can do that through a simple motion and
Yeah,
approval.
it's just communication between the two committees.
okay.
It's documented then in the minutes that you made the motion, rather than stopping each other in the hallway and saying, hey, what do you think?
Okay, that's fine.
Something for a future discussion, okay?
Okay, we can put that on and handle that in 2 minutes, probably takes.
Well,
Unless you want to do
I
it.
don't believe you can have any change in the compensation until the elections, right? After an election.
Actually, you have to, if you're going to change compensation of elected official, it has to be changed prior
Prior
to
to
the
the
time,
election.
prior to the time it's filed.
Right.
The petitions are filed. And then it can only take effect when it comes into the next cycle. But it has to be effective, voted upon and effective before.
Yeah.
So that would be
Is
roughly
that
August 1.
Alex?
That's Alex.
So would that actually be 2 cycles, since the council is divided in two cycles essentially?
Yeah. Yeah, those who would be elected in 2023 could receive the new compensation. Those who are carrying over to 2025 would not receive compensation until 2025.
I didn't know if the whole compensation package would be delayed until everyone was.
No, it's staggered.
Got it.
This is Alex Boyd-Mallow, who's going
Good to
to
meet
start
everyone.
working
Welcome,
for
Alex.
us, asked
Meet
him to
in a
come
rush.
down tonight to meet
That's a
everybody.
familiar name.
Don't hold it against me.
It's good to meet everyone.
Okay,
All right, that was my last thing. If there's anything anybody else would like to add to the list for agenda next year, have at it now or feel free to contact me.
I'm surprised you didn't put communication on there. You've been talking about it for like 4 years. So.
Well, I think that's going through,
Is that going through
Communication.
communication? Good,
Yeah.
okay, good.
I think they're-
I'm not suggesting we do that.
It's going through what?
Community engagement.
basically doing that, although I guess this app thing, but that's hard to process, so.
Well, the thing I've been doing, I don't know, I've seen other people do it too. When somebody posts something on like Go Golf Manor, it's a question or I've got a problem. I haven't been telling them what to do. I point them to where to go on the website.
Yeah.
I want people to go to the website. So eventually if we have an app that does that, that's even better. But it seems to me, people, if we just drive people to the website, everything, almost everything they need to know is there, right? Everything they probably want to ask, you know, if they have something in more detail, they come to a council. Good luck with that. Yeah, so anyway.
No, it's good, that's part of the strategic planning, is we can
Yeah.
suggest that of everybody to kind of be, helping you have to help.
Okay, so Ashley Snyder would be driving that, right?
Yep.
Good. Awesome. Good. So is that,
So now I guess if we're done with that, then Mr. Hirth would be next.
Yeah, I think you are adjourning to an executive session.
Okay, you can do that. How do we do that?
make a motion to adjourn to executive session?
For matters related to personnel,
Or
the
compensation.
compensation of public employee or public official.
Okay.
So that would be so moved, second, and then a roll call vote of the committee. Unless you all could repeat.
I made the motion.
Second.
And then a roll call vote.
He's catching up.
Okay. Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Knipp is not here. Mr. Marks,
Yes.
Mr. Simile,
Yes.
Mr. Van Haren.
Yes.
Then we would close the doors. Everybody invited to stay?
I guess for this one,
I don't know of anyone we need.
next one.
Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and end
Well-
the stream.
I think
And we're